I had been one of Carl's sailing mentors, one of the so-called experts he relied on. I had helped him find his boat and talked him into buying it. I had given him a 2-bit pep talk on the phone the day before he shoved off on his fateful single-handed passage from the Chesapeake Bay to the Caribbean islands. I had been scheduled to sail to the islands a week later, and we had planned a rendezvous in St. Thomas. I didn't tell his teary-eyed nephew and silent niece how I had ignored the anxiety and weariness in his voice, or how he had lingered on the line. Pressed for time, I had assured him that everything would be fine. "The forecast looks good," I had told him, with thinly disguised impatience. "And the tropics are clear. You've got yourself a nice weather window." Then, in a big brother tone, the memory of which will always make me cringe, I reminded him that fatigue, not weather, was his chief concern. "It doesn't matter when you get to St. Thomas, just that you do get there. If you want a goal, make it before Thanksgiving so you can buy me dinner. Take it easy, Carl. Suck the marrow out of the experience. This is what you've been dreaming about. Don't forget to eat and sleep. Have a great passage. I'll see you in about 3 weeks, amigo." When I did see him 3 weeks later, he was in a coffin, and I was angry, heartbroken, awash with guilt. It seemed profoundly unfair that Hurricane Lenny had picked a fight with Carl. Lenny was a bully of a tempest. Carl, the new kid in school. Seeking partly to assuage my conscience and partly to understand how this calamity could have occurred, I resolved to find out all I could about the details of Carl's first and last blue water passage. I became obsessed with the minutiae of how he must have spent his final hours afloat, battling conditions that were beyond surviving, conditions that would have mocked the stoutest sailor, the stoutest little boat, the stoutest dream. As I pieced together bits of information and reconstructed his passage, I began to see that you can sail away from your life ashore, but you can't sail away from yourself. The spare outline of what had happened was haunting, but soon I learned that there was more to the story. I discovered that Carl had not been the only character in what turned out to be a 3-act tragedy. Although he had set off on his fateful voyage single-handed, Carl wasn't alone when he died. 3 men perished in the heart of the storm. The 3 had shared a bond of sailing, but in other ways they were as different from one another as men could be. They were from 3 countries, sailing 3 fundamentally different boats, heading in 3 different directions on the chart and in life. None had any idea of the other's existence until a hurricane tossed them together. Each man thought he was doing the right thing, following his gut instincts, trying to skirt the swirling madness, fighting for his life. Drawn unwaveringly into the maelstrom like moths to a lamp, they converged in the lair of a cyclops, a one-eyed monster named Lenny. And within the howling walls of that lethal vortex, Carl Wake found a last chance for redemption. I didn't know any of this as I stood unsteadily next to my friend. I had only just returned from the waters that had claimed his life. The whims of a dictator had spared me my own encounter with Lenny. What I did know, and what I finally managed to mumble to his loved ones, was that my life was richer for having known Carl. Trade winds. There is, one knows not what sweet mystery about this sea, whose gently awful stirrings seem to speak of some hidden soul beneath. Herman Melville, Moby Dick. Nautical twilight, that sanguine half-hour between dark and light, when Venus lingers a couple of fists above the horizon.